Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Halil Fahmi Al-Fatimu from SMA Negeri 1 Banjarnegara, and today I'm participating in NSDC 2026 and positioned as the pro team. And today's motion is this House believes that scholarships should only be granted on the basis of financial necessity. Before we start to the argument, I would like to define about scholarship and financial necessity. I define scholarship as a financial aid that is given to students for supporting their needs of education, fully or partially. There is two types of scholarships, which is merit-based scholarship and financial-based scholarship. Merit-based scholarships are getting students with excellent academic ability, while financial-based scholarship aiming students with financial necessity only. While the financial necessity in the context of education is a condition where people or students do not have the ability to fulfill their tuition fee or living cost due to the condition of their economy. And this can be factored by many things. For example, like their family income, and then the financial background of their family, and where they live is also affecting the income of their family, because in Indonesia there is an income standard per region that differs per region. Well, I'm standing as the pro team and state that I believe the House should support scholarship based only on financial necessity. Globally, there is a lot of cases where excellent students cannot continue their education to higher level due to the incapability to afford the tuition fee or living cost. In general, scholarships usually need some requirements like standardized tests such as IELTS, SAT, or a level with high price. And according to the exchange rate of US dollar and Indonesian rupiah, the rate of IELTS, for example, is really high, with 3.5 million of Indonesian rupiah per test, while the average salary of Indonesian people is still around 3 million Indonesian rupiah per month. And this condition is really hard for students with financial necessity. One of the solutions for students with financial necessity to continue their education is by scholarship. But the problem is, many scholarships using merit-based system who require standardized tests, like I've mentioned before, such as IELTS, SAT, or even A-level and international baccalaureate. And of course, the students with financial necessity cannot afford the rate of these several tests, and of course they cannot participate in the selection process of the scholarship because they don't fulfill the requirements of the selection process. Well, we need to ask, what is the primary purpose of a scholarship? Well, scholarship is a tool for people who want to improve and continue their education without spending so much money because they got a scholarship. So, like I mentioned on the definition, scholarship is a financial aid that is given to students who meet the requirements of the scholarships. Well, right now there is a lot of scholarships who use the merit-based system that is assumed unequal for students who has the financial necessity. Well, let's compare. The students with good financial can have a good quality school. They can attend the good quality school that has a better teacher, that has better curriculum, and of course it affects to their mindset, to their way of thinking, and many others. And then second, students with a good financial can afford private tutor. They can invite a tutor to their house to teach them about several things, and sometimes it is also related with the academic. And then after that, they have the stable home environment, so they can study peacefully, they can study freely without thinking about their family problems because they have this stable home environment. And then they also have a better access to technology and facilities because they can afford it. For example, like they can access the internet better, they can access to scientific journals better, they can access to more information rather than students with financial necessity. And now let's compare with students with poor financial or with financial necessity. First of all, most of them is attending a regular school or free school, for example, like in Indonesia, SMA Negeri, because they cannot afford a better school quality, which is usually private school. And then after that, there is also a lot of students in Indonesia who studies while working. So they have to support their family financial by by helping their parents, for example, by working in their spare time. And they also have to study while working in their spare time. So if compared with students with good financial, they can study every time without even thinking to help their parents in financial things. And then after that, poor financial students usually lacks access to internet or proper facilities. And this is the real example of inequality in a social context. And then after that, the students with poor financial faces financial stress daily because of course students with poor financial condition will face their parents talking about their economical condition every day, and of course it'll affect their mind. It'll be things that probably will be overthinked by the students. So this is the real example of inequality between students with good financial and bad financial. And then now let's talk about the benefits of scholarships with only financial necessity based selection. So the benefits, the first one, it can maximize the social impact. Like I've mentioned before, there is a lot of inequality between good financial students and bad financial students. We can maximize the social impact to the bad financial students by providing scholarship to them without even making them have to spend money to enter the selection process of the scholarship. And then the second one, it'll prevent wasting allocation on those who can already afford education. Usually, people with good financial can afford the education to the higher level. However, with their condition of economy, of course, they can afford the higher education only by their money. And then for people who has bad condition of economy cannot access several facilities like I've mentioned before, like accessing the internet or proper facilities, they cannot got that because they don't have the money to afford it. So for conclusion, the scholarships is the scholarship should only be granted on the basis of financial necessity to improve the equality in social and to prevent the wasted allocation of scholarship money to those who can already afford education. That's all, and I strongly believe that this house should only be supporting the scholarship to be granted on the basis of financial necessity.